As you saw in the two tasks and video, we often make snap judgments and jump to conclusions on the basis of very complex information in our environment, which can be problematic. Sometimes we have to make a conclusion without necessarily having all the information, hence why it's important to consider the evidence on both sides. Happy medium should be found between making an accurate decision, which can take a long time and require a lot of information, and making a fast decision, which can be incorrect due to the lack of information. Social media, especially, enables the spread of information that is not always accurate. Without careful consideration of evidence, people can become misinformed. This is because the media can influence people's decisions. For an example, the claim that vaccines supposedly cause autism is still widely circulated, even though it is being debunked, causing a risk to the health of society. Remember the misleading headlines we showed in Module 1? If we're too quick to jump to conclusions after reading a headline, we may miss the real story being published and believe false information. Therefore, with news outlets constantly trying to give us the most up to date information, a story they post one day may be out of date the next. For example, let's look at the two news headlines. The first of these two articles was published on the 13th of July 2020, and the second was published on the 7th of August 2020. They were published less than a month apart, and yet in that time, the view of the potential effect of COVID 19 on climate change has completely changed. This highlights the need to interpret news with caution and not jump to conclusions based on one or two news stories. But what happens when people do jump to conclusions based on one or two news stories? So, what are the real world implications for jumping to conclusions based on the media? Panic buying during COVID 19 is a perfect example. Often people jump to conclusions based on what they see in the news or on social media. We must be careful about jumping to conclusions, and this was made obvious when we saw COVID related news and articles in a time that was changing so quickly. When we're living in such unprecedented circumstances, we were constantly learning more about the virus and its effects. This thinking trap may have led people to stockpile toilet paper during that period, leaving most stores almost completely out of stock. For instance, people may have seen news related to toilet paper stockpiling and immediately jumped to the conclusion that they need to buy toilet paper too, regardless of whether they actually need it. People may see toilet paper is running low at one store, and this may confirm their pre existing idea that toilet paper is going to run out, causing them to panic and start stockpiling.